Hi everyone, welcome to the Velvet Lounge. Today I'm going to be talking about several things. One will be some of the issues that I've had with eBay, the performance of the app, that type of thing, as well as some of the things that are coming up for changes. When these items will be in place, I don't know. I know in October there will be some changes. By now, everyone should have received messages from eBay telling them what some of their changes are going to be. If you don't like the changes, you need to let them know. If you don't let them know, they forget constantly that we are actually probably some of their number one customers are sellers. Without sellers paying all of these fees, you have fees if you have a store, you have insertion fees, you have final value fees. God forbid if you decide to update something on your listing, such as adding additional photos or bolding something or using a subtitle line. All of those things cost money, as well as using the reserve is now going to cost you more money. If you sell any items in media, such as books, records, that type of thing, that's going to cost you even more in October than it does now, which is kind of sad because they could have waited until after the first of the year for all of these fee increases. But obviously they wanted to hit us in Q4, so that's what they're going to do. Some of the other changes I know of that are coming are I don't think some of these changes will impact everyone, but I know there are some positive changes if you sell industrial equipment or heavy equipment. I have no idea why they want to get into that genre so badly, since, it's very niche. And most people sell that stuff on Craigslist, or they sell it on Facebook groups and other, put an ad in the newspaper even for free. In your town newspaper, they have one of those sections in the paper that it's free. A lot of people sell that stuff for nothing. They don't have to pay fees for it. But for whatever reason, that's an area they're, I guess, looking to get into more. The other things that, I can think of right off the top of my head is supposedly in this, if you watch the video from the CEO of eBay, he actually talked about postage situations changing. So, for example, if you are supposed to ship something priority mail, because you put that in your listing, if you dumb down your listing for the postage portion of it to, let's say, first class, then you will be charged some sort of penalty. I don't know what these penalties are. I don't know when they would take effect. Will eBay actually, do them? I have no idea. Oh, that's my flintlock that I just got recently. I love this thing. This is actually, you can actually put, I can't remember what they're called, but they're almost like little BBs in here. And it will actually, fire. So I thought that was really cool and interesting. But this is a replica of an old, obviously, super antique original. Should have moved that before I started this video, maybe. But that's something that I got from a pick that we did, and it cost me nothing. I'm going to try, it's fine. I was going to try to adjust this up, but let's try just putting a different picture there. There you go. Since we're talking about eBay, I have 2 screens going today, so lots of stuff to do. Let's try to fix fix that? There you go. Sorry. What else is going on? I know they're going to, which I think this is a good change, and it's something that should have been part of the programming probably 5-6 years ago, because it's something that many people have been begging for years. But I guess on top of charging all these fees and having subpar service over the last 3 to 4 months, but it seems as if, I don't know. I have different opinions on this and trying to keep some of them rather close to my chest, if you will. They're going to allow for multiple users, which is, I think that's great. That would help me, I know, because if I had that option before, then I could have had like other people listing and it taking less time than what we have to do like right now today until these changes take place. So finally, that's going to come. There you go. There's another picture for you. The other thing, which I find this so disturbing. I'm rubbing my face right now. Okay, so this is going to impact an amazing amount of people, and I have many opinions on it. So one of the changes that I'm considering it a forced change that is supposed to be taking place is if you have items listed at $10, under $10. So I don't know if that includes $10 or is it $9.99 and lower. But in any case, if you have anything listed and that is what your listing price is, and most likely that would probably be a buy it now thing, or it would be something that you listed at auction to start at, let's say, $9.99 or less. And if it sells for $9.99 or perhaps it's $10 even or less, then eBay is going to force you to give away free shipping. So that means that items that, let's just use $10 because it's a round number, that are $10 or less, the lowest amount today anyway, that you could ship those items out for is $2.66. So if you subtract $2.66 from $10 plus whatever expenses it took you, fuel, time, whatever it is that you subtract for the labor of obtaining and selling that item, as well as if you were unfortunate enough to actually pay money for the item, you have to subtract that out as well. So, and then don't forget you owe eBay various fees for the sale. And then they do have something right now called PayPal. They still have PayPal until they change over to their own payment system, which to me, I hope they're not going to charge us for using their payment system since it is their system. Like, we shouldn't have to pay for that, but knowing eBay, it'll be an additional 199th fee on top of everything. By the time you do all of those subtractions, and of course supplies, sorry, I forgot about that, you will not make any money on those items, or you will make just a couple of dollars. Like, you'll basically almost be paying them to sell your $10, under $10 item. So something just to think about, especially now while you're listing new items. Like I said, when that change will come, I'm not sure. Maybe it will be after the holidays. I don't know when it will be, but I'm just saying, while you're listing new items today, like right now, consider pricing. Also consider when you're out in the world, obtaining items or drop shipping or whatever it is you do, to get merchandise for resale, just, consider how much you're going to sell those items for and price accordingly. Obviously, I think that the price of $10.01 will become very popular. Just saying. The other things that I know of are, first of all, a lot of people who went to eBay Open seem to have the same exact message, which is there was very little to almost no good news other than being able to add a multi-user, to their platform so they can have other people sign in, list things, whatever. There seemed to be like very little good news. Most of it was for the sellers. It almost seems kind of gloomy. Like the best news they probably got was from when they met with each other and interacted and networked and whatever. But from the actual eBay Open, the news just did not seem good for sellers at all. One thing I have many things to say, but one of the things I have to say, and I've said this before at the beginning of this video, is eBay forgets that we are also their customers. We have other platforms that we can sell on. Thank goodness if you, registered yourself early before Amazon, put more requirements in place. If you have an Amazon account, bravo, because you definitely have another place to sell your items, especially if your items are like brand new or they're refurbished, or they can even be used, but I would, depends on what it is. Because me personally, I really don't like buying used items off of any platform. That's just my preference, which is really odd as someone who's an eBay seller, but that's, everyone has a preference and nothing's wrong with that. But if you have brand new items, hopefully you're not behind on what you're doing as far as diversifying where you sell. Another great market is Facebook groups. Especially if you've been a member of a group for a while and hopefully you're kind of active in it. You don't have to be overly active, but kind of active. And people can trust you, then it's a great place to sell your items. And guess what? 0 fees. The only fees you should have are with PayPal, because when you take a payment, it's just my preference right now. You should do it through something secure, such as PayPal, versus saying, I'll send you this item and I'll trust you to send me a check. I don't know why anyone would do that in the year 2018. But that's just the way it is. What else was there? So one of the other things I wanted to talk about is so some of the issues I've had lately with eBay, and I have actually right now, as of I would say a week ago, I finally stopped having these issues. But I don't know if it was because I called eBay, and as you saw when I'm on my opening screen, that's just my hand. That's not my opening screen. I had, a list of things that I had written out because I called them. And I do that. Before I call them with a problem, I always sort of write notes, whether it's handwritten or typed. If it's long, I type them. The other thing I do is I keep a record of my notes so that if I ever need them for certain actions in the future, I have them at hand and I know who I spoke to and I know when I call them, and I even will write down approximately what time in my own time zone. And then, of course, you're going to write down whatever the solution or reply was. So, this phone call that I had with one of their representatives, and I started out with a guy named Richard, and then I was transferred to another fellow who is definitely 100% American. And one of the things I wanted to know is it seemed as if, like, I was suddenly not getting as many views for my sales. I mean, for my listings. And my listings are always really pretty decently active. And I always have a decent amount in sales every month. And I noticed a decline. Like, it just seems like one day someone flipped a switch or something crashed. And with all the problems they were having with their interface, which we could see up front, you can't even imagine how many things are probably going wrong in the background that we don't even know about. So I called them and I, told the guy about that. I also told him about the fact that when I tried to list items, suddenly I was getting this crazy buffering. We have a super zippy internet here. So it wasn't our internet. All of my other apps, everywhere else that I do business, everything that, people in this house, which there's only three of us, but play games on, etc., etc. Nothing else was having a problem as far as applications for other websites or apps. Only eBay. And so the fellow said, wow, that's a new one. I'll write a ticket, we'll research it, etc., etc. And I was like, well, it's really strange that this seemed to just suddenly happen around the same time that I seem to be getting not many views on my items that I have listed for sale. And he's like, oh, other people have said that too, that they've had, they're not getting the number of views and this and that, and supposedly, like, someone at eBay or whoever, and I'm just going to say eBay, is looking into it. So it's supposedly that was a known issue. One of the other issues I was having is whenever I use their bulk editor, and to edit, like, say, let's say I want to take items that were listed for auction and flip them over to being buy it now 30 days, for example, then I would have to go in, select all of my listings that I want changed, and then in just a few keystrokes, I could actually change all of those listings to buy it now 30 days, or either, till closed, or whatever you want to change your duration to. And then what I found is after I, of course, submitted and accepted these changes, that I would go in and look at them, because I would just randomly look at one or two. I always do that just to spot check things. And I found that it would change all, like, my fonts in the description. So it would remove anything that I put in there, such as bolding, italicizing, underlying, colors, alignments were totally removed. And I absolutely detested that because, you took the time to create these listings a certain way and to portray yourself a certain way. So that's what you want to see. And the guy told me that he had not heard of that before. He went in and he took a look at some of my listings, and he could definitely see that, some of them were definitely impacted. And then we tried it, and it didn't happen right away. And I don't know if it happens like within a minute or 3 minutes or whatever. But then we went back in after talking about other issues, and I don't know how much time passed. Let's just say 15, 20 minutes. And he saw what I saw. And he's like, oh, I've never seen that. That's so crazy. And he's like, yeah, that's not right, blah, blah, blah. And supposedly he opened a ticket for that as well. So at the end of the conversation, of course, some tickets were supposedly opened. There was acknowledgement of known issues that eBay was either fixing or had just finished fixing or fixed. And I asked him, like, what are you going to do for me? And I actually started out by saying I shouldn't even have to say these words, but since I do, like, what are you going to do for me? Like, you can see I've had all of these problems, and I'm an active lister and seller. And he, of course, thanked me for my 99 years of being with eBay, blah, 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 blah. And eventually he said he would put through a request with his supervisor so that I would receive a coupon that I could use, as I don't remember what he called it, but it was something like, as a way of saying, I'm sorry you have these issues, or, accept this as, a peace offering, whatever. So, ironically, I really didn't believe him he would call back, because I told him to call me back whenever he got the approval or send me an email. He actually called me back that night within maybe about 2.5 hours, maybe a little bit less. And lo and behold, there was a coupon that I could use for future purchases. But, I made it very clear that I wasn't calling to just receive a coupon. Like, I want someone to address, like, the issues I've had and the fact that it impacts me from actually actively listing the number of listings I like to list in a couple of days. So far I haven't received any calls back or any notices or messages, or I haven't seen anything publicly posted telling people we're working on these problems. And at this point it's been, I'm going to say, about a week and maybe 2 days. So, that's what's been going on with me and eBay, and why I decided to put this video out there and ask what's wrong with eBay. Like, and don't they realize that we as buyers are their customers? Yes, the people that buy from us, which are buying through the eBay platform, are also customers. But in the real world, which I think they don't realize, when people purchase items from you, they're almost looking at you. They're looking at you and saying, I am your customer, like whatever the name of your store is, whatever your user ID is. eBay becomes almost secondary to them. And it's partially just simply because the way that it was branded from day one to day let's say, 3 years ago. And the reason I say pre 3 years, post 3 years ago, is because when Amazon started to rule, e-commerce, I guess I'll say, eBay became nervous, and, versus them updating their platform, and versus them making sure the people that are on their boards and the people who are the directors and vice presidents and, maybe even team leaders and managers, and I don't even know what the normal employee base looks like down below that it's diversified. It has females, versus just being a male-driven company, which is what a lot of people think about eBay. They should, have rebranded themselves, but made sure that they look like the rest of the world. Amazon pretty much did that from the beginning, sort of. And I'm sure they made changes and modifications throughout, to make sure that, when people shop, they assume that they have certain assumptions. So at the end of the day, what's coming for us are more fees. There are, potential penalties coming. It just seems like it's becoming harder to sell on eBay, but, at the end of the day, I think eBay is still a good platform for certain types of sales. So in no way would I tell people to stop selling on eBay. That makes no sense. I think that you have to maybe narrow down what you're selling on eBay and, simply move items to other platforms that are more welcoming or suitable. I think you obviously have to look at your pricing if anything is like $10 and under. Because paying postage, let's say that you were mailing out something that weighed over a pound, or even weighs a pound. It depends on how much you're charging for that item. You're not going to make any money. It'll be a waste of your time, your energy, and definitely your money and other resources. So there are other places where you can sell those items and they're welcomed. There are plenty, millions of under $10 items on Amazon. They welcome you. Maybe you should try them out. The other thing is, the multi-user, as I discussed before, is coming. I don't know, if people start moving inventory around depending upon what they're selling, that could be beneficial to you, or, maybe it's something that's a little too late at this point, maybe. I don't know. And then on top of that, you just want to, watch your seller's dashboard. Those numbers mean something. If you notice that your sales are going down, let's say 10-15% or more, look at that and try to figure out, why. If you feel like your fees are higher than normal, of course, eBay, and I think this was almost by design, but honestly, it's really just really old programming. They could make their invoices much easier to navigate. But they don't. But still, look at your invoices. Make sure there's, no issues on there because of all the issues. Like I said, the problems that were known with the interface. That usually means that there are issues in the background with algorithms and other things. I was a director of technology for many, many, many years. So you can, I can kind of feel out what potentially is going on. I don't know anything for sure, but I'm just saying, definitely start just actually looking at your seller's dashboard and start looking at your invoice in detail, just to make sure that things are right. And if they're not correct, then get on the phone, call eBay, but before you do that, have your notes written out so you know exactly what you're, trying to accomplish in that phone call. And then, like I've said more than once, definitely look at diversification. I can't say that enough. We've talked about this many times. If you are selling to supplement your family's income, or if you're selling and especially if this is your job, you do this full time, whether it's you or your entire family, or you have a warehouse, it doesn't matter. Just look at your whole business model and start making moves before you have to literally start diving into something else, because that way you'll make less errors in transition. You'll make smarter choices, and most of all, you will still have a handle, hopefully, on making profits and keeping down, any additional cost. And if something doesn't look right, obviously getting things corrected sooner versus later. So I hope that this didn't come across as a ranting video, because it's not. It's meant to be informative. But I am human, so if I ranted a little bit, for those that, would not like that, apologies. For those that, are the real deal Holyfield, here I am. Please leave a comment below about your recent, experiences over the last few months. Leave any questions that you have. if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would much appreciate it. And if you want to take the time to subscribe, click the little